In lesson 100, we're graphing parabolas. So in example 1, we're going to complete the square to graph y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. So I have y equals, and I'm going to kind of separate this out, x squared minus 4x, I'm going to leave a space, plus 2. Now I'm going to take half of my negative 4, and that's negative 2, and then I'm going to square it and add that here. So negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Now since I added it here, I'm going to subtract it over here. So really, if I put those together, a positive 4 and a negative 4, that would be 0. Okay, so it stays balanced. Okay, then I can rewrite this as x minus 2, because that was half of my middle number, squared minus 2. So I've just changed the format here. Now this has just a positive 1 in front, so that means it's going to go up. And I'll write that as the direction. And then to find the vertex, that is negative h comma k. Okay, which this would be your h and this would be your k. So it would be 2, because I changed the sign, but this sign stays the same, negative 2. Okay, and then I'm going to find my y-intercept. So what I'll do is put a 0 in for x. So I'd have 0 minus 2 squared minus 2. That's y equals that. And then I'll have 4 minus 2, and then that's 2. So also I would want the axis of symmetry, which is x equals, and then I look at the vertex value, it's 2, so x equals 2 would be my axis of symmetry. So using this information, I can now graph a parabola. So 2, negative 2, so 1, 2, 1, 2, that's my vertex, and then the y-intercept was 2, so I go here to the 2. Now, if you think about that axis of symmetry, I know my line isn't very straight here, but it would go through that point. And that means that since there's 2 on this side and a point, there would be 2 on this side and also a point, because they just reflect across the axis of symmetry. And then I can go ahead and draw my parabola. Of course, mine's not that pretty, but hopefully you get the idea that it's that U shape. Alright, so let's try that again. So I'm going to rearrange this, kind of change the format using completing the square. So I'm going to take that negative on the outside of the parentheses. So I'm going to have a positive x squared, and then I'm going to have a minus 2x. I'm going to leave a space, and then put my plus 2. So I take half of the negative 2 and square it, so that'd be a negative 1 squared, so that's plus 1 here. Now because of this negative sign on the outside, that makes that a negative 1, so I would actually add 1 here, so that when I put those two back together it would be a 0, and it maintains the balance of the equation. So I can write this, keeping the negative on the outside, as x minus 1 squared, then it will be plus 3. Okay, so the direction would be down because it's negative. And then my vertex would be 1, 3. because I get that from here, and here is the vertex. And my y-intercept I'll solve for, so I have negative, and then I put a 0 in for the x, minus 1 squared plus 3. So this would be a negative 1 plus 3, so that would be a 2. And then I'll go on to find my axis of symmetry. Which is going to be x equals 1. So I just used the x value of the vertex. Okay, now we should be able to graph our parabola. So the vertex is at 1, 3. So I go 1, 1, 2, 3. The y-intercept is at 2. So I go on the other side the same way. And then this is going down. And I always like to make sure that I know the direction, because that way it's a quick check of my graph to make sure I've got this going the right way and I've found the right y-intercept. Now sometimes it may have the vertex as the y-intercept, so you might have to use maybe a negative 1, negative 2, or positive 1 or positive 2 to fill in for the x in order to get the point on the other side that's just reflected across that axis of symmetry that goes right down the middle there. Alright, hopefully this helps you with graphing parabolas by using completing the square. So you also will use completing the square to graph other conic sections like circles, hyperbolas, of course the parabolas, we just did that, ellipses. So it's very important to note. If you need any help, feel free to ask me any questions by email or in class.